Runescape 3, a MMORPG which was originally released in 2001. To some, it's just a game, but to others, it's so much more. The game has some serious issues which we will address, but there's also so much good to enjoy about this wonderful game. So today, in this video, we're going to be looking at RuneScape 3, the good and the bad. I hope that this video shows Jagex what we as a community appreciate about this game, and also shows them what needs to change. And hopefully you guys can be a key part in this, so make sure you share your opinions down below in the comments. But for now guys, let's begin, and let's start with the beauty of this game. First up, we have the combat system. Originally when RS2 transitioned into RS3, the main reasoning at the time was promising a new combat system, which Jagex insisted would make the game more engaging and enjoyable. Upon release, however, the game was an absolute mess. Things hadn't been done properly, and a lot of people got a bad taste and just quit forever and would never ever give RS3 a chance again. Now, years down the line, with constant updates and major fixes, the combat system is now a fantastic piece of content. Whilst the combat system does have a learning curve, it is very rewarding to learn the mechanics and nuances that this game has to offer. Overall, I think the three combat styles, Mage, Melee and Range, are balanced enough to the state where they all have their uses. Admittedly, there is a very steep learning curve for new players, but once you grasp the system and make it your own, it really is a very rewarding and an engaging experience. Now, to complement this engaging combat system, there are a variety of bosses which are absolutely fantastically designed and really do require coordination, thinking, strategy and teamwork. They also span in difficulty from beginner to mid-level to end game, where you really need to master the combat system to get good rewards. Overall, I think this is the most enjoyable aspect of the game personally. Over the years, it really has developed into a fascinating aspect of the game. It's just a shame that so many people disregarded it without giving it a proper try because it was so poorly released. Next up, we have another core aspect of the game, the 28 skills that it has to offer. As the game has progressed through its various stages, new skills have been added and integral skills have been revamped and improved. Skilling is such a core part of the game. It provides supplies for PvM and is a fantastic way to earn money. With the 28 skills, the variety is unbelievable and there is a great deal of content to explore. Recently, Jagex launched the new skill Archaeology, and it has been a massive success. The community at large have really enjoyed it. There's so much to explore, and it really is a tribute to how good this game can actually be. Across the game, as mentioned earlier, there are 28 skills to explore and enjoy, with different training methods ranging from relaxed, AFK, watch Netflix and play RuneScape on the side, to sweaty, high intensity, more rewarding methods. Overall, no matter what you enjoy or what your playstyle is, the vast variety of training methods out there for each of the skills will provide you something that matches your needs. Moving on to another fantastic aspect of the game, we have quests and lore. Over the years, the game really has come into its own with unique storylines and engaging quests. Almost every aspect of this game is immersed in meaningful stories and provides an incredible world that you can escape to. There's so much to learn, and this is growing all the time. It's genuinely incredible to see the amount of depth and creativity that some of the lore has. Rooted at the heart of the lore are quests. Now, as of making this video, there are 226 RuneScape quests to enjoy. These quests vary in length from a couple of minutes to a few hours, and overall there's so many interesting storylines to explore, and some of the quests are hilarious, some of them are cringy, some of them are epic, and there's simply just so much variety to choose from. There's definitely a storyline out there for you, and this is a fantastic aspect of the game which is enjoyed by so many people. Moving on to an area which I think is quite vastly underappreciated is the amazing graphics and scenery which the game has to offer. Whilst it's certainly not to everyone's taste, I think generally it's very much appreciated that RS3 boasts some of the most amazing landscapes and artworks that there is. For example, some of the new areas are a sight to behold when you explore them for the first time. The amount of detail that goes into the design and production really is something to behold. Plus, the world of Gielinor is so vast and big, there's so much variety in the beauty that this game has to offer. A huge amount of work and investment has gone into this game when they moved away from the old Java client to NXT, and nowadays you can really see it paying off with the new areas in particular. Another amazing aspect of Runescape is the complete and utter control you have of your experience. What I mean by this is almost everything is customizable. You can make your character look exactly how you want it to. You can change your hairstyle, you can change your clothes, you can change the color of your hair, you can wear anything you want, and if you think something looks good but has bad stats, you can override your equipment so you can have whatever fashion that you want to do. I personally don't really care about this, but I know a lot of people that do, and it means so much to them that they can roleplay in any way that they want. This also goes so much further than just your character. You can customize your game to whatever you want it to be. You have an option to toggle warnings, you have options for combat, you have options for skilling. On top of this, you can change how the sky looks with skyboxes and filters, and you really can customize your gameplay so you can play exactly how you want it to. Other games may restrict your class, the type of world you go on, etc. This game doesn't. You're free to explore whatever you want, however you want it to do. The customization that we have is very powerful, and we're very lucky to have that. Moving on, next up we have music. Now, the music in RuneScape is unbelievable, and almost every piece of content has an attached, dedicated soundtrack to match the theme. The music generally perfectly matches the tone of the area. Sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's scary. And overall, I think that the music team at Jagex does such a good job, and we don't appreciate it enough. A lot of us, including me, sometimes don't play with their game sounds on, and we really miss out on something magical. To add to the amazing music, there's also incredible sound effects with actions that you do with your character, and there's also some voice acted quests which really add to the experience. Overall, I think this is one of the best aspects that the game has to offer, so props to the Jagex audio team for literally outdoing yourselves. Moving on to our penultimate point, we have probably the most important aspect of the game to me and so many others, and that is the fantastic community that we are a part of. It's hard to explain how wonderful and supportive our community is to someone who's new to our game or hasn't played it before, but to those who have, well, the majority at least, the community is everything about this game. To begin with, we have friends, chats and clans which always provide a sense of togetherness and always provide help if you need it, and they are an integral part of our game and so important to so many of us. There are also regular events held on a weekly and bi-weekly basis which allow players to play games like Castle Wars, Soul Wars together and just get to know each other better. Now on top of this, we also have an amazing Discord community in general on RuneScape, where there are thousands of Discords there ready to welcome you and help you with anything you need. I am personally very lucky to have a fantastic, supportive, helpful, smart community in my Discord. The link is down below if you want to join, by the way, but I'm certainly not on my own. I know all the other content creators have some fantastic people there, helping out other people, helping out beginners, etc. Now on top of these Discords, we also have teaching Discords like the PVME, which is absolutely amazing because it literally serves the purpose of helping you get better at PVM. You can submit your VODs, etc. And it really is a fantastic community effort to see things like this. On top of that, whatever your passion is in this game, you will find someone else that shares it. Now, for example, there's such a massive and wonderful artistic community which released some of the most beautiful creations I've ever seen, and we're so lucky to have them here. But they are just one example. Whatever your passion is, you'll find someone else to share it with you. Now, another aspect is the Twitch community. Now, personally, I feel so blessed to have such a wonderful Twitch following who support me and make me happy every day, and I know I'm not the only one. My friend Micro, for example, did a Deal or No Deal, which is absolutely fantastic to watch, engaging. The chat absolutely loved it, and it really is all about the community. And I know I've gone on about it for a while, but I'm just really passionate about it, and we're just very lucky to have you guys here. So yeah, thank you for being awesome and continue to be nice and kind and help people, and that really does make RuneScape 3 what it is today. Now, the final point I want to make in this section is there's just so much to explore. This game has 20 years worth of content to enjoy and immerse yourself in, whether you're a PVMer, whether you're a skiller, whether you like the quests or lore. There is something here that you will enjoy. There are achievements, there are tasks, it goes on and on. Now, because there is so much to explore, because there is so many wonderful people on this game, it really is a fantastic escape from reality, and there's no shame in that whatsoever. For example, during COVID, I know a lot of people were struck pretty hard, including myself. I had a lot of insecurity about what was going on in the world, etc. My job situation wasn't very clear. And during that time, I think I was able to cope with it because I was able to escape and not think about those things and immerse myself in this wonderful fantasy world, which may sound nerdy, which may sound bad, but I don't really care. It served its purpose for me. It really helped me out through that period, and I know it helped a lot of other people out as well. So, on that regard, I think this game is pretty amazing. Now, if you could do me a favor and comment down below what your favorite thing of RuneScape is, that would mean a great deal to me personally. But anyway, it's time to move on to the next section. Just before we start, I may sound a bit critical in this next section, but please know that it comes from a place of love. The feedback that we collated on stream, etc., everyone was very passionate about it, and all we want is for the game to be the best version of itself. You are, of course, entitled to disagree, and feel free to share that opinion in the comments below. But anyway, let's get started. Let's start off by addressing the massive elephant in the RuneScape 3 room, and that is microtransactions. Now, sadly, microtransactions have to exist. There's no two ways about it. In a video I did, I analysed Jagex's financial statements to show and highlight how much they rely on MTX. The results are quite astonishing and a bit worrying, to be honest. That video will be in the description if you want to watch it. But overall, the issue that the community has with microtransactions is the way that they are presented to us. It seems like that is the main focus of Jagex. It's very much in your face at all times, and you can't get rid of it. There's no option to disable MTX, for example. A lot of the time this is very overwhelming and leaves the impression that Jagex don't really care about the content that they're going to make, but instead just kind of keep advertising this constant microtransactions instead of investing in the game itself, which really should be the case. When we were doing research for this video, people seemed to not really care about MTX if they had lots of content to play with. The issue becomes when there's a massive content drought, something we'll address really shortly, and there's a massive amount of MTX promotion. Those two combined together don't go well, and really leave a bad taste in the mouth for the community, and understandably so. My final point I want to make on MTX is, I understand that MTX is needed, and I'm completely okay with that. But focusing so much on MTX instead of relying on content for revenue in the long term is not sustainable, and I think this could probably cause a lot of problems down the line, but hopefully things are addressed and it doesn't get to that stage. The next key issue that upsets a lot of people is just months on end without content. Content droughts are now becoming a very normal thing to experience in RuneScape 3. Currently, there hasn't been any new content since the release of the archaeology skill, apart from a few patch notes here and there, and that really is disappointing. Understandably, COVID has had an impact, but literally months without any content is naturally very infuriating for the player base, and this, combined with the aforementioned MTX concentration, really does result in a frustrated and angry audience. Now, if this was the first time and we could say that COVID was the main cause of this, I think we would be more forgiving. But there have been several instances in the past with literally no communication and just an onslaught of MTX promos combined with no content. As a result, people are just getting fed up and they're asking for better from Jagex. You need to be more productive, you need to produce more content, and apologizing over and over again is just not good enough. I just hope that they realize that and, make the changes needed so that doesn't happen again. Additionally, a lot of people are angry at the fact that these small patch notes with things like changing text are disguised as updates. They're presented in such a way that we should be excited about these things, but in truth they have absolutely no impact on the game whatsoever, and as a result, it just infuriates us even more. Overall, I just think these content droughts are unforgivable, barring maybe this COVID circumstance, because it's damaging the game in the long run and literally destroying all trust between us and the creators. Speaking of trust, this links in quite nicely with the next point, and that is a culture of delays. I understand that the workplace can be hectic and sometimes it's hard to keep to a plan, but the amount of delays that Jagex have had in their content is ridiculous, and to be honest, it is quite embarrassing. If some delays happen on a couple of projects, I think the community will be very forgiving, but it's a serious issue, and I personally believe it's down to the culture of Jagex. I just think that delays are accepted, and as a result of that, it's okay to delay something. And that's absolutely not good enough in any work environment, but it seems to very much be the norm. Now, if you want examples, I can give them to you. Now, recently, Jagex updated the Tier 92 armor because it's cheaper to repair. Because basically before that, it was just simply way too expensive to use, and it had very little usage because of that fact. This was promised to us almost 2 years ago, and all the updates that we got was, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Now 2 years later, it's been released. Is that good enough? Not really. And this is just one of so many examples. And because it's the norm instead of the exception to the rule, I think it's down to the culture, and things need to change because this destroys the trust. This destroys the trust that it has with the player base, and it's very, very upsetting. This brings me on to my next point. There seems to be no real strategy for RuneScape 3. We don't really know where the game is going, and as a result of that, we don't really have faith that it's going in the right direction. And let me give you an example. Before, RuneScape made it very clear that their strategy was expansions. Expansions were large updates which happened every 3 or 4 months and gave us lots of content to do that. After their first expansion, they scrapped it. Then they went to unfinished business, a strategy which focused on repairing all the issues that the game had to end up with a more polished product for players to enjoy. Since then, I have no idea what's happening. They seem to be moving from one to the other, there's no coherence, and the player base just don't know about it. It's very worrying. I know that they are under some new leadership, etc., but a leader needs to have a vision. And if that vision isn't communicated to everyone, firstly in the organization, and 2 to the consumers, it leads to a lot of trouble down the line. I mean, I know this sounds a bit management consultancy, but that's literally where it's from, and it's so important to have. And because we don't know it, and I personally feel that the JMods themselves aren't really clear about where the company is going, no strategy, no mission, it leads to people being confused, it causes a lot of problem in the organization. And yeah, I think this may be one of the reasons why we are having content droughts. They don't know where they're going, so that's a shame. Another aspect of the strategy which deeply concerns me for the longevity of RuneScape 3 is the fact that they have always focused on recruiting old players to come back, as opposed to investing in the early game and making it attractive to new players. That means eventually people will outgrow this game and there won't be any new players coming through. It's bad for the game economy and it's just not sustainable whatsoever. I really feel like that element of RuneScape's ambition needs to be changed. Next up, we have feedback. Now, to say Jagex don't give us feedback and they don't interact with us would be a lie, because they do. They absolutely do. Like I mentioned earlier, JMods are on Twitter, they're on Reddit, and they do their weekly live stream, etc. Now, the issue we're addressing here is not the fact that they don't have communication, it's the quality of communication which is the issue. Now, I think Jagex go for an approach of quantity over quality when it comes to communication. A lot of the time, meaningful updates to projects aren't really given out, but instead we'll focus on irrelevant live streams which don't really add any value. When we do get in contact with JMods, sometimes instead of answering the pressing questions, they just ignore it and focus on the agenda that they have ahead. That obviously is very, very frustrating for us because we know that they're thinking about it, but they can't say anything. So the quality of communication really isn't that good. Now, this is a personal opinion of mine, but I think that the CM team have too much pressure on them to go and provide updates from the rest of the organization. Now, some of you may say that's their job, and I completely get that. That is their job. But they are the ones that face the brunt of the community when things aren't going to plan with a certain project. They are the people that have to face the backlash, where instead it should be the people who are actually working on the project who should be providing us updates, etc. Instead, it goes through the CM team, and as a result of that, we get angry at them when it's not necessarily their fault. I feel like JMods should take a bit more ownership of their work, and as a result of that, we can know who to contact about certain projects, etc., instead of just going to CM who have to then reach out to the actual JMods. It's a bit of a confusing process, and I don't think it's very functional. In fact, I would argue it's actually dysfunctional. Another issue which we have is the fact that key information isn't given to us about delays. Something that will go a long way with the community. It will make us more understanding. It will make us more acceptable if there's something going on. Now, a perfect example of this is the tier 92 armor fix that we mentioned earlier. Apparently, when it was initially proposed, it was thought to be a small project. But then it got massive, it got very overwhelming, there were so many bugs with it, but none of this was communicated to us. If we knew, for example, that this would require a lot of resources, we would have been a lot more forgiving with the fact that it had been delayed. But instead we were kept in the dark, and as a result of that, we were angry when it came out 2 years later, and rightly so. So I think that if something is being delayed, a little line of communication about why it's being delayed, keeping the community in the loop, would go a very, very long way. A key issue which a lot of people have is that the Jagex customer support is absolutely pathetic, and I know that may seem like quite a strong response, but it truly is horrific, and because they operate mainly through Twitter, it restricts a lot of people, and it's very confusing for people to get in contact with Jagex if they need something, if their account has been hacked, for example, etc, etc. It seems to be the case that if you shout the loudest, you will get a response. That's very, very broken, and it doesn't seem like a very respectable way of doing things. Also, the customer support are notoriously bad because a lot of the time they provide the wrong advice to players, and people make memes of this, and Jagex may try to ignore this issue, but it destroys the brand image 100%, and it destroys the trust. When I was discussing this with my stream, everyone was of the opinion that Twitter should be scrapped and they should do it somewhere else. People also suggested appoint players with experience in the game to help people with such inquiries. People who know what they're talking about instead of someone who's paid to answer questions on a game they've never played before. It really does give Jagex a bad image. Having terrible customer support as a meme really isn't good for your company, and I really hope they try and improve it instead of ignoring the fact that this is an issue. At least acknowledge it. I think that will go a long way as well. So I think we've covered all the overarching issues which kind of impact the game in a negative way. Now it's time to talk about the game itself. First of all, a core issue that the game faces is the fact that it's absolutely terrible for new players to get used to it. Players are overwhelmed the moment they log in. In fact, a lot of people who played the game for the first time describe it like operating a spaceship. There are so many controls and settings which overwhelm new players, and as a result of that, they just get deterred and they don't get to enjoy the latter stages of the game, and as a result, they miss out on some amazing content. Paired with this is that free-to-play is really bad. It's actually terrible. So attracting new players with that sort of beginning is impossible because they're going to get overwhelmed. They're not going to enjoy the community aspect of it because the free-to-play worlds are empty or full of bots. The beginning of the game seems to be a very lonely experience just because not many people playing are at that stage and there's no support for it. Of course, people are going to get overwhelmed and quit. It's natural. And this is such a pressing issue because I think if Jagex worked on their early game, they would have retained so many new players, but instead it's just kind of ignored and has been for absolutely years. It really is a massive, massive shame. To add to this, the combat system, which we described as being fantastic earlier, is very overwhelming to learn for new players, and there's really no guidance into how to engage with it, and the combat tutorial that the game has to offer is pretty pathetic, and it really needs a massive do-over. Now, for the sustainability of the game, I really hope that the new player experience is looked at and treated as a matter of priority, because without new players this game is never going to grow, and it's going to rely more and more on MTX, which is going to cause more and more problems. An issue which is pressing for a lot of experienced players is the fact that the cost of PVM is very, very high. The cost of PVM has been raised to Jagex multiple times and largely it's been ignored. The tier 92 armor fix was nice recently, but that's one of many steps and largely it's been ignored. It's been an issue for many years. Just look at the spreadsheet below and you'll find out what the actual cost of PVMing is, and it adds barriers to entry from very engaging content, which as a result just means that people don't enjoy the game as much as they should. Now, I know this is a massive issue for a lot of people and some people just disregard it, but the fact that it is an issue means that it does need to be investigated further and treated seriously for the long-term health of the game. Another issue similar to this is one about auras. Now, the game is balanced around auras, an item which you activate for a limited amount of time which gives you increased hit chance and increased damage. Now, in response to this, a lot of you will be saying but War's Retreat made it so auras are purchasable through bossing points, which it was a good update in my opinion, but it doesn't address the core issue. The core issue is that the bosses are balanced around an item which you can only use for a limited amount of time, and as a result of that, people don't seem to enjoy PVM as much as they could. Newer bosses like Solak and the Elite Dungeons don't necessarily require auras, and as a result of that they're much more enjoyable than, for example, going to Telos and requiring a maniacal aura to get a very good hit chance. I will admit things are a lot more convenient now than they were, for example, 2 years ago when there was no War's Retreat and there were no aura refreshes. But existing bosses requiring an item which you can only use for a limited amount of time is very counterproductive for both sides. It's not enjoyable to use. If it was up to me, I would literally rework the whole aura system and redesign bosses so they don't need them at all and scrap auras. I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me. But regardless, this is an issue which needs to be investigated and addressed by Jagex. The final issue I want to raise is that there is a lack of competitive content. Now, if we take a look at Old School, which is a great proxy for RS3, the community management team there, they work so hard on producing fantastic competitive content which the whole community gets behind, and as a result of that, people are excited, it means something, and it's official. Things like Deadman Mode, like Twisted Leagues, they've helped Old School grow so much, and it really is mind-boggling to me that RS3 haven't picked up on this. The game has a lot of potential, and it can be very enjoyable to watch, especially if you see content creators competing against each other. Now, I'm not just saying that, we have the evidence to back this up, and that's available on Twitch. Because Jagex don't make anything competitive, RS3 content creators have to impose it themselves. They have to artificially make challenges to make the game more exciting to watch. And as a result of that competition, the growth is incredible. The views are amazing on Twitch, the views are amazing on YouTube, everyone loves it. The game gets so much free advertisement from that, and people want to play, people want to join in, and it's just such a shame that nothing like this has been done. And instead, people like the RS Guy and Cashstack have to make their own challenges, they have to innovate. They have to be doing this to advertise the game so they have something to stream, something exciting that viewers will watch. They're doing the job which Jagex should be doing. My crew invited loads of people to join a hardcore Iron Man QBD from scratch. That was really popular, but he had to do that, Jagex didn't do it. Now imagine if Jagex did that and they advertised it, how popular would it be? And it's brainless because it's so much free advertising, it's great for the game, it's amazing for content creators. I don't understand why they don't have someone looking at this all the time, because it's a massive untapped opportunity. It's actually very sad that they haven't looked at this because there's so much potential. Well, there you have it. The good and the bad of RuneScape 3. Now this video simply just wouldn't have been possible without my amazing stream, so thank you everyone who contributed to these ideas. It was a massive team effort and I would love to do like a community driven video like this another time. So if you do want to get involved, then please feel free to pop in my stream, give me ideas, or just join my Discord and hit me up and join our wonderful community. I just want to reiterate that this game is a pretty special game. It has a very special place in my heart, for example, and I know it does for a lot of other people. I just want to see it be the best version it can be, and even though it has amazing aspects to it, currently I feel it's not living up to its potential. So if you can share this with your friends, get it to the right people, it would mean a great deal. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time, which will be very soon.